Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Born Too Late podcast, where I, Jay Castro, and my friend that's sitting right here next to me, Josh Rutledge, talk to musicians, journalists, broadcasters, label owners, or anyone else making a fuss in the world of underground music right now, today. Josh, who do we have on tap for tonight?
So tonight, our guest is Rob Brake, a very talented musician and a quite brilliant artist from London, Ontario, who performs in a variety of excellent bands crossing the genres of garage punk, synth punk, post punk, and straight up punk rock. You may know him from Isolation Party, Mononegatives, Klazo, Telegenic Pleasure, or even from his solo recordings. Last year, Mononegatives released the album Apparatus Division, hands down one of the best punk rock records of 2021. Earlier this year, Klazo released Demic Dementia, an album I have hailed as a goddamn classic upon arrival. If you're looking for some modern-day punk music that's full of creativity, originality, and sheer excitement, you should seek out everything from this guy's catalog. On that note, we are beyond excited to welcome Rob Brake to the program.
When every day's feeling like a Monday morning, staying out late, kinda gets boring. Do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. I'm getting older by day, younger at night. I need a little something to feel alright. Yeah, do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. Yeah, you do what you wanna when you wanna do something now. Chances are you made some choices, but I hear no inner voice.
Yeah, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. How are you doing?
Good. I'm just sitting in my van right now doing this interview with you guys. Yeah,
That's
no,
awesome.
Is
yeah,
that
man.
the new van you
it's
just
good to
got?
see y'all. Thank you all for having me, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Is that the new van you just got?
Yep. Yeah, you saw that, eh?
Sweet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this thing's mint. Like head to
That's
toe minted.
cool.
Yeah, man.
Perfect.
Yeah, right on. So you guys are like very far apart from each other, and you're organizing this at different time zones.
It's
Yeah, it is.
wild.
It's not easy.
It's good though tonight because at least you and I are in the same time zone, and then Jay is the one that's 3
Yeah,
hours
he's
behind.
kind of you're out in Arizona. Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah. It's all right.
It's
Scenery's nice. It's nice right now. It's getting hot. It's gonna get.
Yeah, no. I have friends of mine who all live there. My friend Melanie lives there, and she's like, it's the blistering heat.
Yeah. I've lived here all my life, and you never get used to it, really.
No, you're not used to it.
No, you don't. You just learn to live with it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I guess I feel that same way about like the winter.
Yeah, that's what you guys. That's the bane of your existence.
Oh yeah. I was working out in that all year, man. Like I was like out in like frigid cold, like -30 all year because I do construction, right?
Man, I don't even know. I've never experienced that. I have no idea what that's like.
Wow.
-30 degrees.
Well,
that's
yeah, because
amazing.
you guys have like the Fahrenheit, and we have like Celsius, right? So like I guess what would that be like Fahrenheit? God, I don't even know. Anyways, yeah, it's just cold as fuck.
Yeah, I don't have my abacus, so I can't figure that out right now. I said I don't have my abacus, so I can't figure that out.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, minus
it's
30
cold,
Celsius
unbearably
is
cold.
cold.
Yeah, Josh knows what's up.
Yeah. Is that so cold enough that like it'll damage your skin?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes when I walk to work, man, like I experienced this I think in like 2018 or something like that. Around that time, I was walking to work and my eyelids like froze, and I had to like rub my face to like get them back open. I was like, oh, holy fuck, no,
That's serious stuff.
Yeah, man, it's pretty wild here. I mean, I live in like the most southern point too, which is like, imagine going like up north, like you throw like a cup of water outside, it turns into like mist immediately.
Wow, that's awesome. I'd like to see that at least once.
Yeah, you will. It's not going.
You give me too much credit. I don't know. Maybe somewhere. I don't know where I could go to do that. Cool, man. Well, thanks again for doing this, man. We appreciate it. We
Yeah,
have
brother.
been fans. I mean, I don't know if you remember, I used to have my blog Audio Ammunition, and you sent that Isolation Party record.
Oh, yo, that was you.
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, wow, small world, man. Yeah, I was a crazy guy back then, man. I was like just getting at everybody because I was really excited and stuff. Not that I'm not now. It's just, yeah, no, a lot of years have passed by, and like, people are like, "Yo, you got a hold of me at this time." I'm like, "Holy shit, I did! Wow."
No, dude, I'm glad you said it, because that's one of the things. I always tell Josh, one of the things that's so worth doing the blogs and music, like writing about music, is when you get
I loved Audio
uh,
Ammunition, by the way. That was something I kept up with for a very long time.
oh, thanks, man. I
Like,
appreciate
no,
that.
thank you, man. That's your rule.
But yeah, dude, I loved getting albums that I had no idea what it was and just putting it on, and it just slayed. That was like my favorite thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? I put on, like, holy. I mean, I thought that about your record. So I messaged you.
Yeah,
I'm like, holy
yeah,
crap,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sending this. This is a freaking triumph.
Anytime, man. Sorry if like I'm not allowed to swear on here. I don't really know.
Oh, of course. Let her rip.
Yeah, man. No, dude, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Like that record came out so long ago, man. Like, now looking back, it's like a timepiece for me. Because like I had a guy in Japan like email me not that long ago being like, I listen to this record every day. It's my favorite record. Like I love Fiber Optic Holiday. And it was like in like obviously like the best he could speak English, because like English is not his first language. And so I like totally deciphered it, and I was like, oh, I really dug the record. That's rad, man.
I know from where that man cometh.
You know what's cool about that too is that like Josh had to take a little break there just because like personal life shit got in the way. But yeah, we're back on board doing some more new stuff with Isolation Party, which is like I'm very excited about that, because I didn't want to push like Josh in any other direction that like he otherwise wouldn't get excited about music anymore, right? So that's why like I keep myself active, and when he wants to gravitate back to that project, it's like entirely in his hands, right?
Josh being your drummer, correct?
No, Jake's my drummer. Josh is the other guitar player and singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'll hear him on like half the record, man. It's like a co-partnership when we wrote Fiber Optic Holiday.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Record still holds up.
Thanks, man.
I just want to tell you that.
That means the fucking world to me, man. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, dude.
Of course.
Yeah, man. And let me know if you can like hear me or not, because I'm kind of like yelling in my van right now. I just didn't want to do this shit in my apartment because like my girlfriend's like working on some art right now. I didn't want to like fuck up any of her feng shui, because I make art too, and if something annoying is happening right beside me, I'm just like, oh, like I start getting mad. It's a process, right?
I totally get that, and we'll get to your art here shortly, because I want to ask you about that. But anyway, let's if you want to just go ahead.
Yeah, let's
get started.
Kick off the formal interview.
Yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it.
So, thank you for joining us tonight, Rob. We are glad to have you on the show.
Ow! Yeah, good to see you guys, man.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about the fact that you are in a number of bands, and they're all a little different, but all like really great. And so I just thought we could start with kind of a funny question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you in so many bands? Like, what is it about you that can't be contained into just one musical entity?
To be fair, I don't know. I think I'm just half insane, and like I think life is really short, and like musically, I need a lot of vehicles to be able to properly express myself, and it's just music's a very important thing for me day to day. Like I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want to do is music, and from the time I wake up and go to bed, right? So I mean, it is like equally just as important as like the people I've met as well. Like the people I've met here in London, like I've met a lot of really talented folks, and I'd be half insane not to like find that, utilize it, and just make time for it, because it's important, right? Like one day, poof, you're gone, and what have you left behind?
Yeah, and plus, man, I mean, personally, like I kind of like that when people do different projects and title them different, like you have Mononegatives, you have Klazo, you have Isolation Party, because like when I buy an album, like if I get a Klazo record and like oh, and then it sounds like Isolation Party or whatever, I like to know what I'm getting into. I like when I hear a band, or like if I buy a Devo record and all of a sudden they sound like the Modern Lovers, I'm like, what the hell is this? This isn't what I signed up for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So,
you know what? And like a lot of people have noticed, like, you were in like a lot of bands. This is not like a shot against anyone personally. Like, I've noticed it. Like, it's hard for some people to compartmentalize certain like atmospheres of like the band that they're playing in, because it can just spill into like band A into band B, and I have a really easy time being able to just be like, no, this is one thing and it cannot coexist with the other. And like that, like artistically, I will never ever let anything like that ever happen. Like, I'm super anal retentive about that.
no, it's cool. I mean,
Yeah, man.
it's appreciated. And so, speaking of your different projects, what led you to do a cover of Huey Lewis's "Hip to Be Square"? Like, where did that come from?
Oh man, that's the funniest story. It's funny as fuck. Like, you're gonna laugh. So like, you remember like 2020 when things were like at the peak of like bleakness and things were just like absolutely dreadful. Like, I thought humanity was gonna get wiped out. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I'll be totally frank with y'all. Like, I thought things were gonna like be looking very bad.
Yeah,
So,
it was a dark time.
no, not at all. Like, it was dreadful. And so I was up one night, man. I think I was like just fucking drinking and watching a Rambo movie or something. Like, eating a bag of chips, like, sipping on a fucking 6-pack, got a many I had. And my buddy got a hold of me, and he's like a really eccentric guy. I stress the point, eccentric. Guy's a fucking really eccentric guy. And so he was up, like, doing God knows what, taking God knows what. And like, he just like messaged me. He's like, man, really, like, I've been super into garage rock with like, yacht rock in my list lately of bands. Like, I want to like combine the two, man. Like, I'm gonna get like people together and I'm gonna put like yacht rock comp out. And I'm like, what? Like, what time of night is this? And you're like messaging me, you want to make a yacht rock comp? And so this guy made like a whole ass comp of like bands from like the area, and it's like the yacht rock comp, and I happen to get Huey Lewis in the fucking news. And like, straight up, it was so funny. I'm like, how am I gonna pull this off? Like, how's that gonna happen? So I was like, you know what? Like, fuck this. I'm just gonna make it as angular and fucking weird as possible. And like, I was the only one on that compilation because everyone like tried to like, make it sound like kind of close to it. And I was like, no, fuck this. I can't do that. I cannot do that. And so it just came out sounding the way it did, and it sounds totally like obtuse from like the actual song itself. Because if you listen to it, it sounds like a guy at a sports game, like, getting a beer and be like the happiest guy on the fucking planet, seeing the Jays or something.
Oh yeah, dude. Listening to it, like, I couldn't, like, I must have heard that song dozens of times just because it was out when I was younger, and it was it was like in the zeitgeist at the time. And I listened to yours, and I'm like, I couldn't even tell it was the same song until the chorus.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I didn't know how to do it, man. Like, I couldn't just be like, you know what I mean? Like, sing Huey Lewis's style and like in the form of like music I'm doing. I just couldn't do it.
Oh yeah,
I'm not good enough, even like, I don't know. That song is funny as fuck, man. I listen to that and I just start fucking cackling, man. As soon as that song comes on, man, I just die. Yeah. No, I think it's that song, that idea was really funny. It's one of those like pandemic ideas my buddy came up with, and like totally brought me out of being like fucking bummed out because of the pandemic, right? And I was just like, I'm gonna do this dumb as fuck cover. Like, it's gonna be so dumb. Anyway, sorry.
A lot of people that are
bunch, man.
a lot of people listening to this might be familiar with some of your newer music.
Yeah, man.
But you've been doing this a while. You've been playing in bands for a good long time. So could you tell us a little bit about your history and how you got into making music, and maybe what your first bands were?
Yeah. I mean, like, as a little kid, man, like, I always really clicked into music a lot. Like, I don't know, like, my family, like, they like, you know, kind of knew from a very fucking young age that I was like really into music, because I'd always steal my dad's radio and always go through like the channels, like frantically finding shit that I wanted to like listen to as even an 8-year-old, you know what I mean? And like flash forward like to me being a teenager, and I'm this like aggro pissed off teenager with a cheap shitty guitar, and you know, full of piss and vinegar, like completely like staying up all night, like not going to school the next day, like fucking making music and stuff like that, and being a total disappointment to my parents. But like whatever, man. Like, you know, it was something that was really important to me from a very young age. And you know, by 17 or 16, I got booted out of fucking high school. I won't even lie about that. And like all I did was like stay up, play music, and then like, you know, a punk band from a town over picked me up, and they like this like street punk band named Organized Chaos, and I was like totally this influential little kid at the time, like being like, oh cool, older guys in a punk band like me. Oh cool. Like I get to go tour, yeah. So like I skipped all this school, pissed off my fucking parents, and like, you know, I just went out touring at the age of like 15, 16, 17, right? And yeah, like getting into that, flash forwarding, like more time went by, and I found myself like, you know, still actively wanting to do music even in my 20s and now in my 30s, and somehow it rolled into being like something completely fucking serious, a lot more serious, and I do actually treat it like it is like, you know, my hustle and my job, right?
Well, dude, I just want to say this before I get into my next question. You're a really prolific dude,
Thanks, man.
and there's, you know, yeah, there's been other prolific writers, but very few have I liked that, you know, how am I supposed to say? All the stuff that you do, I like.
Thanks,
and
man.
that's very rare. You know, I mean, out of all your projects, it's like, okay, that's gonna kick ass. Yeah, Mononegatives, yeah, that kicks ass. I Search Party, yeah, that kick, you know, I'm like, oh man, that's great, man.
Thanks, man.
It's great that there are people, young people like you, that are doing this.
Oh, and I'll never stop, man. You know, not to like rant too much, and I apologize. Like, you know, sometimes I can get into like fucking story mode, and I'm like, you know, grandma.
Dude, that's why we're here. That is why we're here. So
no, I like getting to like what Josh was saying, like, you know, when he asked that question. It's just like, yeah, like the more time went on, like you know, it's fine if you don't want to keep playing music forever. It's not for everyone, man. But like, you know, I just never stopped as a kid. You know, it was always really important to me, no matter what happened, that I just kept doing it, because you know, how do you just stop doing that? Like, how do you just strip yourself of your fucking personality? You know, you keep going, you don't stop. And for me, it just, as I got older, it snowballed into being something a lot more important than I thought it was, right?
Yeah, it becomes part of you, a piece of you.
Yeah, man.
So you mentioned your art earlier.
Yeah.
What got you started doing that, and what influences that? What influences your art?
Oh man. So like I actually didn't pick up art not that long ago, man. So I used to work at this like call center in London that I think like every musician on the fucking planet who's ever been here has worked at. Like even like Chance from Priors has worked at this same call center, if you're familiar with that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he used to live in London. I worked at this like call center that every like punk rock scumbag on the planet ever fucking worked at. And so they just hired everyone, and you know what I mean? It was like, you know, you can get any hours you wanted, you can go on tour as much as you wanted. I went on tour like 5 times a year, I think, like in 2018. And yeah, so I was working there, and my drummer Dave, like he's really big into like artwork and collage art and stuff like that, and he's always been like one of those like people that have like helped me hyper focus on how to do collage art. And so I'm sitting at a desk for 9 hours a day, and you know, he told me, he's like, you're gonna want to pass the time, and looking at your phone ain't gonna do it. So he was just like, man, like try collaging, like seriously, you might like it. And I sat down for that like 9-hour shift, man. I must have made like a shitload of collages and stuff, and I really found a great way to express myself, you know. And like sorry, I cleared my throat here. No, like with collaging, man, like, it just came naturally to me after like someone kind of gave me the, you know, the route to do it.
Cool.
Yeah, so Dave would be like one of my influences when it comes to that. I know it's really funny how close to home that is, but he was kind of the one that pushed me in that direction.
So we got to talk about some of the music, because I think Jay and I are both huge fans of a lot of these records you've been putting out.
Thanks,
The
man.
last couple of years, you're just on fire.
Mhm.
That's
So
funny.
that Mononegatives record, Apparatus Division.
Yep.
It's like when I think about a lot of the people who I respect, they were all the ones saying, "Oh, this is like the best record released last year, or definitely the top 2 or top 3." And it really is great, and I was just so stoked to see so many people into it.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what your perspective on that record is. Why do you think people have responded the way they have to that album?
I'll be honest with you, man. Like, as proud of that record as I am, and I'm not taking that away from like, the other guys. I don't understand how that blew up the way it did. Like to be like the fucking this is the best record of 2021. Like I don't get it. Like it is a good record, and don't get me wrong, and I'm not being self-deprecating. It's just like the whole like synth punk genre kind of gets roped into like the egg punk genre. And that, like, in my opinion, that's a very crowded genre. Like a lot of people are doing that. And so like, I don't know how that, like, if that record got roped into being an egg punk record, and generally a lot of people will say Mononegatives is like an egg punk band, and I'm gonna say I disagree, but that's like, that's someone else's opinion. They're allowed to have that. But I don't know how that record got like, the throw up of success it got. It blew my fucking mind, man, to be honest, dude. Because I just like, it got like out one day, and then in 24 hours in Canada, it just sold out. Like I just kept getting orders and order after order, and then it was gone. And then months roll by, and people are like putting it on their best of 2021 list, and I think it's just a combination of those guys being on their A game, because like a lot of those like guys in Mononegatives, like myself included, are very methodical about the way they write and do things. And there is a point to prove when you have a process like so methodical to be able to make something like Apparatus Division. And like on top of that, we're just a bunch of like absolute fucking nerds. Like I'm a nerd, like every other guy in that band's like an absolute fucking nerd. And it ties into being very methodical. And when you're very methodical and organized, I think you can pull it off, man.
That's cool. So just real quick, who else is on that record?
That record is just me, John Lamont, and David Serengini. So we actually have another bass player now, and John, like who originally played bass, now plays guitar. Because he's like an exceptional fucking guitar player. Like he's better than I am on guitar. The guy teaches me stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the new Klazo record that you put out February of this year, Demic Dementia. What can people expect out of this new record as opposed to the 2017's Embarrassed of Living LP? Like what were you listening to as opposed to back then? Like what else got in the mix that's a little different?
Oh, that's
if
a really
anything.
good question, man. I actually I can answer that one pretty thoroughly. So like the Embarrassed of Living record, I don't know why, for whatever reason, we thought we needed like the studio treatment for our songs, because like we thought, if we get into this like nice studio, things will sound good, people will be able to hear it better, and like that was the exact opposite of what that band needed. That band did not need a studio. Like I personally believe that band needs to be like 100 feet away from fucking studios that are nice at all times. No, like there's no need for that band to ever be in a studio. I think the process of that was like Jesse got this like really like totally cheap, shitty like tape machine, and then we like ran it through like a old Trainer mixer to get his drums, and it was just all in his basement, and like it was just like totally like barbaric the way we recorded this record, like absolute barbarianism. And like I think because we just kept it out of a studio, we kept it in our hands, you know what I mean? And I wanted it to sound as like shrill and pissed off and full of like bullshit as possible. And I think like what separates that away from like the Embarrassed of Living record is that record was like rushed. It was like, it's too clean in my opinion. And like what to expect from the next record, like as opposed to the first one, it's honest. It's way more honest. There's more honesty on that record.
Well, I can definitely hear that what you were talking about. I was thinking Demic Dementia sounds more savage. Like you said, it sounds more pissed off.
It's more honest, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it has more piss and vinegar in it, man. And that's a record I'm insanely proud of. And a funny thing about that record too is we recorded that in 2019 and it didn't come out till like this year because of like how crazy and fucking wild things got over the course of the last couple of years, right? And like Jesse also had a kid too, so like he just needed to be with his family and stuff. And I wanted to like make the demic dementia like the last priority on his list, right? But yeah,
I was talking in the intro about how I described that album as a goddamn classic, and I can't
that's
disagree
awesome.
with that at this point. I think I was right.
I
For
appreciate
once,
that, man.
for
I mean,
once, my
I don't know how
instincts
to
were
react to
pretty
that
good.
except like thank you.
Yeah, that's a ripper of an album.
Thanks, man.
So you will again be on a lot of year-end lists for top album. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about influences. Usually people talk to musicians about influences. They want to know what bands you're listening to and songwriters. And I think people can tell like some of the influences, but I'm interested in beyond the musical influences. Maybe what is it that really inspires you to make music and write songs and just be an artist? Or what are your life influences that affect your music?
Like life influence wise, man. I have a really good story that can pertain to that. So like I think surrealism and just nihilism and like abstract like abstract surreal life shit that just happens to me like or I see like in everyday life like for example like when the pandemic was like still rearing its ugly head I got into like the weird part of YouTube where I was like watching all these like fucking crazy documentaries and I found this documentary on like sex robots or something like that out of Japan and I watched that and like the last track on the Apparatus Division record like it's like Silicone Warmth Routine. That's like about a guy who was like married to his like fucking sex doll, and I'm like, what kind of like crazy future are we gonna live in, man?
Dude, this is just the
that's what I
beginning.
mean, though. When I see shit like that, it's like, oh god, I can take that in. Like, what is that? That's weird. Whoa, you know? Yeah, so stuff like that, just absolute surrealism, man. And like, I know people have a number of things they can write about, but I think that's like top tier for me is like, when I see something that absolutely like just makes my brain melt out of my ear, I'm like, how is that a thing? Like it definitely gets like down on a pen and pad, right?
So tell me about your live shows.
Mm-hmm.
You put out a lot of music, you record a lot of music. Is playing your music live something you enjoy doing?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've done it for a while. I think like as time's gone on, like, I find it's important to some people that they want to play live and that's how they express themselves. And I think that's cool. Like, that's cool if you want to perform live and that is like a form of your own expression and people want to be like, in a certain place to be able to say that like, I can validate what I'm doing is what I'm doing. Me personally, like, live shows are fun, but I'd rather just, hit the record button over and over again and go chasing after like, the next tape machine or the next soundboard and stuff. Cause I know I'm always going to be able to play live and live to me is like a secondary thing. I'll always be able to do it. But I think what hits me most importantly, like besides like all the fun I've had playing live, I've had a lot of fucking fun. It's just, yeah, right now at this point in like me doing music, I just don't think that that's like the utmost of importance. I do enjoy it, but right now I think the best thing to do is like focus on like how much better of a fucking songwriter I can get right before I don't want to dry up. So yeah, it's kind of my nod towards that, right?
So we touched on this earlier. You did the whole 2020 thing, maybe the whole 2021 thing,
Yeah.
2021-22 thing, the pandemic, which was so unprecedented and affected everyone. I'm just interested in like how did that impact you? Like how did it impact you personally, or how did it impact you as a musician?
I did nothing but benefit from it, in my opinion. I know a lot of people didn't, and like my heart goes out to those people. And like a lot of my friends really felt like they got stuck in a rut, and like I wasn't like I didn't enjoy seeing that at all because you never want to see people you love and care about like not stay up, right? But I mean, personally, like I was in a job I fucking hated. I got laid off of this job I hated, and it left me with nothing but time to just make music and create. And like with that time, I spent with Mononegatives. Like we made Apparatus Division around that time, and then on top of that, like me and Marco, like from No Front Teeth, made another record that's gonna come out, I think, end of this year. I mean, I wrote like and recorded that entire record during the span of that time when the pandemic was just like everywhere, and there was just like paranoia. And so, like, again, going back to what I was saying before, I thought everything, like, everyone was just getting wiped out. I was thinking the worst shit possible. And, I wrote this record being like, okay, if I'm going to do this, it better be, like, fucking worth it, man. And if this is the last thing I write, then that's it, And that's a high note to go out on. And again, like, not to be, like, super doomist, but I did benefit from it because it definitely helped me soul search a lot more as a creative person.
Well, someone like you would definitely, I can see benefiting. It's like you were saying, it seems like the musicians that got hit the hardest were the ones that lived to play live.
Yeah.
Live to tour and all that. It's like,
and they're like, again, man, like I'm not downing anybody who does that. Like that's how they express themselves, and that's cool as fuck, man. Like I can't look at anybody and be like, oh, you're a stupid idiot. How dare you just want to play live? It's just, that's their way of doing it, right? And it's like, I get excited, like topping in the van, going to get like the next amplifier, being like, oh, that's gonna sound cool as fuck on my next record, yeah. Like let's hit record right away, like. And like Dave's the same way I am, like the drummer of Mononegatives. Like we're both like, two peas in a pod. We're always in the van going to drive like, hours away getting like stupid gear and like, playing live is cool, man. Like I'm happy anybody asks me to do it, but it's never going to be the first of my priorities, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you hooked up with It's Trash for that Killed by Meth comp that they put out. There was a Klazo song, Smash the Letter.
Oh man, that's like the best story of all time.
Oh, cool. I'm glad I asked this then.
Yeah. Again, like I apologize if I'm ranting at all, dude. Just dude, it's
no, not at all.
I love being talked to about this shit because it's a lot of fun, man. So back in 2016, I played in this like garage punk band, and I was like really new to London. I didn't really have a lot of friends here and stuff, and so I was like, pretty fresh faced, and I had like, this band that I was really like, digging at the time, and I was doing things with them. And Jesse was like this like mystical figure in London, like the like garage punk guy. Like, and I was like, who is this guy? I want to get a hold of him. Like, he's like the coolest fucking dude, and like It's Trash rules. And so I show up at his door like step one day and like buy records, right? And like Jesse's a really straight shooter. Like if I have to like, say anything about Jesse, he's like as straight shooter as it gets. Like you won't get no like there's no fat with that guy. Like he tells you how it is, And so I look at him and he's just like being super blunt with me, like just being like, all right, yeah, all right, $20, man, let's go. Like just like handing me records, and I'm like, do you want to come out to my show tonight, man? Like, it'd be cool if you did. And he's like, yeah, I'll probably show up, man. And so he came out, and like we played like the most garbagey set that night. And it was a lot of fun. Like I was just full of piss and vinegar, like fucking giving her, man. And just like, I've never seen a man like rip through a crowd of people faster than I saw Jesse, like to get to like where I was standing on stage. And he looked right at me and was just like, you and I, we're in a band, you and I. And I was like, okay, man, like, I guess we are in a band together. And then Klazo was made, like, I think the next week.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the drummer at Klazo. But like, yeah, I've never seen it. Like, he got really excited when he met me and like saw that like the music I was playing was like totally reminiscent of what the fuck he was all about, right? So like flash forward like a year and so later, and like he pat us in the Kill by Meth comp because obviously he's the one putting it out, and I wanted to put his stamp on it too. And no, Jesse to me, like knowing him has been like probably one of the more pinnacle moments of me living in London, because like he was this mystical figure, and I got to like end up being best friends with him and traveling with him everywhere, right? So yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, Klazo fits right in there perfectly in that comp.
Yeah, it's a pretty tinny punk song. I also apologize if it looks like I'm like hanging out in like this like dark shed. I realize you guys look like you're in like all these like lit environments, like comfortable at home, and I'm in this like lit shack with this like light over here. Because my van doesn't have like a top light that works because it's from the 90s, right? Or like the early 90s. So yeah, this probably looks like I'm like hanging out in a dungeon right now.
This is what I love about the podcasting thing. People can just be at home listening and they have no idea where we are. They can imagine we're in some fancy studio.
Yeah,
and somebody can be in a barn. Somebody can be
Barn.
I can be in my kitchen.
Or at like, you know what I mean? Anywhere you could think of, man, like just an ice shack or something like that. Like, somewhere really obtuse and like totally angular.
Somebody could be at a donut shop doing a podcast.
Oh, that'd be great.
That's cool you guys do this, man. I really dig it. Like I heard your interview with Dany Laj, and I think that was like bar none, like probably one of my favorite interviews you had with people. I love that guy. He's an absolute homie.
Danny's such a great guy.
I know.
We'd have him on here like, every other show if we could.
That was so much fun because we could have gone probably 3 hours.
Yeah, man. No, like I was listening to it and I was like, God, Danny's like he's so good with his answers, and I have to think about my answers. I'm like, oh fuck, that's a good question. You know what I mean? Like, I probably sound like I'm totally stiff right now, and like I don't care. Like, I'm not the best at
honestly, dude, and I can cut this out. You sound totally fine.
Oh yeah, cool.
But yeah, this is the third time I personally have interviewed Dany.
Third time?
I interviewed him for Audio Ammunition. I interviewed him for the Audio Ammunition podcast, and now for this. So,
Danny's a legend, man. I love that guy, and like, everything they've done is like fucking awesome, dude. Like, I almost like actually moved to Sudbury. Like, I was thinking about it for a while because, like, that's where they're at, or they were at in Sudbury, and a lot of good bands have come out of that neck of the woods in Canada, and it's like totally unexpected. Like, it's Sudbury's like this northern part of Canada that like is in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. He was telling me that they shot Letterkenny, that show Letterkenny there.
Yeah. Do you know who does like the sound engineering for that?
Mm-mm.
Jeff from Tommy and the Commies.
Wow. Does he really?
Yeah. We were hanging out at Gonnerfest when they opened up for the Mummies, and like, I was like, Jeff, like, what the fuck do you do for work, man? Like, you're out in like Turkey, you're out in like, you know what I mean, like Mexico, like the next month. I'm like, what do you do for a job? And he's like, oh, I do sound engineering for Letterkenny. And I'm like, oh my god,
wow,
buddy. And I'm like, no, you don't. And he showed me pictures of him like hanging out with like the main character dude from Letterkenny, right?
Wow.
Insane.
It's wild shit, man.
Yeah, it's almost like this. We're becoming a semi-Canadian punk rock podcast with some of the guests we've had lately. I just always wonder about this. What is it about Canada that produces per capita so much great punk rock music?
I don't know. You know what, man? Like, I have no idea because, like, everybody knows about like American punk, like European punk, and like British punk, and it's just like Canada really has a special place in punk, I think. Like, when there's a good Canadian punk band, it's a good Canadian punk band. Like the fucking Diodes are like, you know what I mean? Even like, even like the Pointed Sticks, man. Like that's got to be one of my top 5. Or like, I even on like mine and Marco's next record, we both covered the Demics. Like I did. I Want to Know by the Demics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And like, but in terms of Canadian punk and stuff like that, like, I have no idea, man. It just has a good history of like being strong, and like, it doesn't fucking play around too much, man. I think that's kind of cool.
I like the fact that, I mean, it might not seem like it to us, but Canadian, like 70s or even early 80s Canadian punk is such still kind of a kept secret, because you go up to, Joe Q, Public. Well, they've heard of the Sexuals, they've heard of Ramones. Have they ever heard of the Vile Tones? Have you heard of
No.
Forgotten Rebels? Ever Teenage Head, Pointed
Yeah, yeah.
Sticks? No, they don't even. So it's still like in a way kind of like a guarded secret, which is fantastic. 'cause, you
It is
know,
great, man. It's like totally untapped. I think it's cool. It's like, it hasn't gotten like, I think it just hasn't gotten overbaked in the sun. You know what I mean? I think that's like, when people
Yeah.
stumble upon a good Canadian band, they're like, holy shit, why have I never heard of this? Like, even like bands like Personality Crisis. I showed my buddy from like Texas them, and he was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Best record I ever heard. Like,
How have I
Creature
lived
for a
this
while blew his
long?
mind,
What's that?
A Creature, the record Creatures for a while, like blew his fucking mind. He was like totally hooked on Canadian punk after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's another thing that, I mean, it seems like, there's still so many stones left unturned,
Oh yeah. I think, I don't know, like another thing about Canadian punk too is like, Canada's very big. I'm sure you guys like have
Yeah.
seen a map of Canada. It's fucking huge. A lot of the bands, like, whether you're in like a conglomerated scene like, Victoria and Vancouver, or if you're like in the middle of nowhere like Winnipeg, like, there's a lot of isolation in a lot of places, and when you're isolated and alone by yourself, that you can really like bounce ideas off of yourself. And I think like, that isolation in a lot of Canadian punk music, or it can really like, I don't know, like stem up from a lot of anxiety and boredom, which like I've noticed in like, the middle of Canada, where like Saskatchewan or Winnipeg, like there's a great amount of Canadian punk bands out of there, man, like tons. And I find that like, my favorite aspects of Canadian punk all kind of come from there, because, they're alone out there and there's nothing out there.
It's interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of time for like introspection, and
Yeah.
that's cool. I never really thought about that. So, Rob, as we kind of wind things down a little bit, tell me where can people go to listen to your music, to buy your music, to follow your bands?
Just like everywhere else, man, Bandcamp. For some reason, every time I upload a record, it gets thrown on YouTube in like 5 hours. Like, YouTube, I'm a big YouTube guy. I'm not like the hugest Spotify guy. I'm just starting to get into Spotify now. Like I'm pretty late to the game, but like, yeah, you just go on my Discogs, man. You'll see what it's all about. And like, anytime I put out a record, always buy it off the record label first. Like, I'm not hard up for the cash, right? Like, I'd rather, the labels get the money first than like, me have to benefit from what the labels are doing for me, right? Like, if you're in the neck of the woods, like say if like you're in the USA, just buy off the US record label, or if you're in Europe, buy off the European record label before you buy from me,
All right, man. Well,
yeah, man.
Again, thank you for sitting down with us and chatting with us.
Yeah, cool.
Let me just go through my my little spiel here real quick, and then we'll sign off. So I just want to say before we go buy Mononegatives, go buy Isolation Party, Klazo, and wait, what are some of the the labels they're on? You mentioned No Front Teeth.
Yeah, so like No Front Teeth would be in Europe and the UK. Like Big Neck was one record label out of the US that we did a lot with Apparatus Division, and Klazo also got put out on Big Neck Records. One big heavy hitter right now, one guy I'm really excited to work with. He's a good dude. His name's Jason. He runs Dowd Records. It's not the most punk record label in the world, but that guy has put out like some of my favorite bands. Like, have you guys ever listened to the band The Cry?
Rough, yeah, of course.
Yeah, like he just put out Beautiful Reasons, like on vinyl. That had never seen vinyl apparently, and like him and Corey Duffel, like the pro skateboarder guy, like him and him just like came together and like totally were like, yeah, let's put that like Beautiful Reasons out. And I found Dowd Records because of that record getting put out, because I'm like a super fan of The Cry. And then like, I got to know Jason really well, and he started putting out Mononegatives releases, and he's doing the next LP. So
nice.
Yeah, that's one guy. If you're on my radar, support that guy. He's cool.
Awesome. So on behalf of our guests, Rob Brake, Josh, and myself, Jay Castro, we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, for listening to our humble podcast. Thank you so much for commenting, for the criticisms. If you like what you heard, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if possible, leave us a review of the podcast. So, of course, not only does it help us, but it helps spread the word on all the amazing folks like Rob that we have on our show. So this is the Born Too Late podcast signing off.
Thanks, yo.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys sincerely.